Hello and welcome back to Mad Tech. Today I thought I'd do you a little workshop tour. A few people have asked me about it. Just so you know, it's a tiny shed. It's 7 foot by 7 foot. Nothing that impressive. There's a lot of stuff in here. It's a little bit squished. Part of the reason I'm doing this is because I'm considering making a new shed a little bit longer, maybe a bit wider as well, to give me the space to expand and do a few extra things. So let's get to it. So as you come through the door, the first tool you come to see is the bandsaw. It's a cheapie from Aldi, but it's fairly large and very powerful. Does the job for what I want. And just behind it you can see all of the solar charging circuitry and the wiring for the shed, which is all sort of homemade, most of it. And then as you come round, I've got a tool wall, different saws and various things on there. And then I've got some squares, screwdrivers, different pliers, cutters, Allen wrenches, and then we got a selection of hammers. And then at the opposite end of the shed I have a small pillar drill. And then looking round you can then see I've got some sanding equipment. I might do a review on some of those sometime. Behind the pillar drill there you can see that I've got some files and metal cutters, pot riveter, that sort of thing. And on the shelf there is some bits for the Dremel type machine, and drill bits, different hole cutters, various types of drills and things like that. And just above I've got a parts drawer. There's nuts, bolts, all sorts in there. I'll show you that in a bit more detail in a minute. And on the top I've got my old robot rover project hiding away at the top of a breadboard. And then over the opposite side of the shed, here I've got my what I call my electronics workbench. There's a few bits and bobs on there, but it's mainly used for electronics, that sort of thing. And then just after that, on the opposite side to the bandsaw, I've got a shelf of all different paints, lubes and various things like that. Under that there is the lathe, which is still work in progress. I'm hoping when I get the new shed I'll have enough space to actually get this up and running and working properly. But in this shed there's just simply not enough room. And under there is just storage and garden equipment as well. And just underneath the electronics workbench, that's where I keep all my drills. Other stock items, there's all sorts under there, from router bits to spare drill bits, other tools. Down the bottom there I've got an electric stapler, small grinder, and just around from there I've got lots of bits of wood, various bits of metal, tend to work with metal as well. And around here there is a table saw, which I haven't used much, to be honest. I think I want to incorporate that into the table in the new shed so it's a bit more use. And next to the bandsaw we have a vise, use that quite a lot. And underneath there is another shelf, and down there I've got various handhold power tools I use. This all cased up, just bring them out when I need them. There is a small welder there as well. Also hiding away down there is the battery I use for the shed power. And then underneath that is mainly car repair tools, that sort of thing. Okay, so hiding behind the bandsaw, I've obviously got a Google Home for a bit of music in here. And then you've got the solar project. I've got basically a 12 volt and a 24 volt system running at the same time. And this little box of tricks here, basically when the sun's out a bit longer and it's fully charged to 12 volt, it will then top up the 24 volt system automatically, but that's a whole separate project. And then you've got the standard charge controller, and obviously there's a fuse box system there as well. Switch for the lights on and off. And then right down the bottom underneath all of that we've got the mains plugs, and under that there is a 1000 watt inverter which runs all the tools in here, except for the welder, I should say. That is well over 1000 watts, and it does struggle to run the large sander as well. I've got to disengage the top belt on the large sander to get it running and then re-engage it after it's running. It's not quite man enough for that. Yeah, so next to the vise is what I call my dirty bench, and that's where I do most of the dirty work. There is a 12 and 24 outlet at the back there, and I generally do all the hammering, banging, spraying, anything like that on this bench. I didn't mention it, I've got a mini sort of polisher, linisher tool there, and then next to that there's the mini sander thing, the sander, and then there's the big beastie one, which unfortunately the 1000 watt inverter isn't quite man enough, even though that's rated under 1000 watts. And then we've got another smaller one there that works fine on it. And then going over to the electronics side, which is supposed to be my clean bench. Unfortunately, with all these sanding things here and grinding things going on, I do put a little bit of wood here just to try and keep things separate, but we do get plenty of dust getting over here, so it takes a lot of cleaning. But standard tools really, multimeter, soldering iron. There's a label machine there, which is fairly recent. And then down here we've got some more outlets. Again, there's a 12 volt outlet, there's a 24 volt outlet, and a couple of USB outlets as well. Most of this bench is run off the 24 volt system, and then the 12 volt was converted back down. That was just something that happened over time, and if I do it again I would have started with a full 24 volt system at the beginning, but in this case it was just a shed, and we needed some light in here, so I put the 12 volt system in and it did the job. Up here we've got some PCB holders, magnifying glasses and that sort of thing, temperature sensor, another soldering iron. I do tend to use this cheap Lidl's one now and again just to do the odd one off solder joint. It's a bit quicker to heat up than the station. In here, this is a 3D printed project, one of my first actually. 3D printer's not kept in here, I keep that in the house, it's just a bit drier. But in here there's all sorts of odds and sods, various things. Adreno, there is one in there I think, yeah. And some more bits there. So I might actually label these up properly one day. Some other bobs and bobs there. Pro Minis in there. The Raspberry Pi case I started to build. That was just something to test the 3D printer, to be honest, when I first got it. And moving on. So up the top here we've got various crimp connectors. I've got mixed components, test leads and wires, resistors. The big one at the bottom is just spare, that's empty at the moment. So here's some of the mixed components I keep. We've got some switches, relays, diodes, power supply modules, LEDs, all that sort of thing. So I'm not going to go for everything, but in here we've got Adreno, Unos, CNC shields, that sort of thing. Got a small PSU board there I use, boost converters in there, prototyping board in this one, washers, bolts, I've got some lithium batteries in there and that sort of thing. Most of the rest of it is nuts, bolts, screws, that sort of thing. And on this side, we just sort all this out. So I think at the top here we've got, oh, there we go, NFC kit for the Arduino. I'm going to play with that one day. I think there's a lot of Raspberry Pi stuff around here. And then underneath we've got some small motors boards, fuses next to that, got wood dowels, do a bit of that, batteries, 3D printed templates. I make a few things that are copper, sort of artwork and that sort of thing. So if I'm going to make a lot of them the same, I do these just as templates to draw around. There's a few different things to do there. Next to that there is some label printer things and cable ties, and above that there's some 3D printed things, which is a mix of everything, to be honest. And next to that, Raspberry Pi case. So there's a bit of a random mix of all sorts in those. Yeah, so when I'm not messing with electronics, I might be doing some sort of artwork or messing around in the garden. So I usually start off with a copper sheet, cut the shapes out. I've got a jeweler saw for that, and then they get heated up and bended, and this is a butterfly project I've been making. And then we obviously use the cases, twigs and things like that all go in there. So this here project will probably end up with a stick like that and a butterfly on it, and then it'll end up in a case, so it might look something like that at the end when it's done. Another project I've done, this one's finished, I'm going to grab it. So this is quite a recent one. So this is a dolphin jumping out the water. So that was started off as a piece of steel. I keep the steel down here, sheeting. That all gets chopped up into a square. And down the bottom I use the welder just to make some really bad welds because it looks good. Then it gets painted, lacquered. The dolphin gets cut out and shaped, and then gets stuck on, basically. So that's another sort of thing I'm into. There we go. The bandsaw gets used to make these funny boxes out of wood. This is all pallet wood, it's nothing particularly expensive, but yeah, we make some unusual shaped boxes now and again. I haven't done a lot of that yet. I've still got to get my backside in together and do a bit more. Okay, that brings us to the end of my workshop tour. I say I'm going to make a new shed hopefully very soon to upgrade this. So really this video is just for me to look back on, I guess, just to see where it came from. Any questions, please leave comments, and I'll try and answer any questions. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.